Welcome, everybody, to this Plantiful webinar. It's called Lifestyle Medicine for Personal and Planetary Health. I'm Jude Larkin from 350 Kingston. I'll start with acknowledging that the land we are meeting on is the traditional land of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Huron-Wendat peoples, and we thank these nations for their care and stewardship. The presentation will last approximately 45 minutes, and during that time, you will be muted. Please save your questions for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You can type your question in the Zoom chat, or you can raise your hand and the moderator will call on you. To raise your hand, click on the React Heart icon at the bottom of your screen and then click the Raise Hand button. We are recording this session, and you will be able to find a link to it on the 350 Kingston YouTube channel in a few days. How can we make choices every day that will have a positive effect on our health, the health of other species, and the environment? Our presenters today will shed some light on that subject. It is my pleasure to introduce Doctors Maria Theodorou, Sussan Askari, and Henry Swoboda, all certified in lifestyle medicine, and registered dietitian Avery Zenker, who has a master's in human nutrition. They are all members of Queen's Healthy People, Healthy Planet Working Group. I will let them introduce themselves in more detail. Over to you, Maria.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Theodorou. I'm located in Kingston, Ontario. I did my med school at U of T and my residency here in Kingston, and then practiced on the medical wards and in the ICU for 16 years. At some point, really became interested in lifestyle medicine and particularly whole foods, plant-based nutrition as a method for reversing chronic disease. I realized that when I was in the ICU, essentially we were treating the end stages of lifestyle-related disease, and that it would be much better if we could catch people before they landed in the intensive care unit. So I got certified in lifestyle medicine, started attending all the conferences, also got certified in obesity medicine, and now practice medicine full time. And I'll talk about that a little bit in the presentation, but essentially seeing astounding results in helping people to reverse their chronic disease, get off medications, get their diabetes into remission, improve their hypertension, their hyperlipidemia, get their weight under control. It is very satisfying work, and it is my honor to be with you today to talk about not only the health, but the planetary benefits of this type of lifestyle. Henry?
Yeah, hi, I'm Henry Swoboda. I've spoken to similar groups for 350 before, but I'm an emergency physician, also board certified in addiction medicine and medical toxicology, in addition to lifestyle medicine, and I have a certificate in plant-based nutrition from the Thomas Campbell, as well as just finished my coursework for the University of Guelph plant-based nutrition certificate. I came to lifestyle medicine both by kind of practicing it myself, getting rid of extra pounds, getting rid of long COVID, helping get rid of, CPAP machines for my household and antihypertensives and GERD medications. While at the same time, I've been concerned about the planet for a long time and just kind of realizing that amazing synergy between being able to do the right thing for yourself in multiple means. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but doing the right thing for yourself is actually the right thing for the planet, is the right thing for the animals and all living beings on it. So seeing that work in my own life has driven me to learn more about lifestyle medicine, get certified in it. And Sussan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sussan Askari. I'm a faculty at Queen's University. I'm a physiatrist, rehab physician for looking after people with spinal cord injury and MS. One of the reasons that I became very interested in lifestyle medicine was for personal and family reason, and my patients that I'm caring for. So my dad passed away of heart disease at age 68, despite being very active. But there are other reasons that we hear more today. about lifestyle that was not in the place at the time, and lost my mom of Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's, and I was looking to see what I can do to prevent having those diseases, and came across this area of medicine and got certification in 2022, and with a group of our colleagues here and a few more, we started Healthy People, Healthy Planet at Queen's University, try to raise awareness for all kind of faculty, students, and Queen's Health Sciences, and we are trying to bring this in the curriculum in medical education. Avery?
Hi, I'm Avery. I'm a dietitian. I've been involved in plant-based nutrition for about 10 years. And so I have worked with, patients over different chronic conditions, treating and managing with plant-based nutrition and other lifestyle medicine practices. So I have also worked at the Queen's Family Health Team, and I'm currently working with the Health for Life Medical Center, which is a lifestyle medicine clinic. And I've recently this year joined the this group with the Healthy People, Healthy Planet this year. So that's been exciting.
Okay, thank you, Avery. And so, Sussan, were you going to discuss objectives?
Sure. So we are going to talk about definition of lifestyle medicine and the six pillars of lifestyle medicine. What are they and how they relate to planetary health, and also talk about planetary health in particular. And we definitely want to make sure that we leave time at the end for Q&A. So lifestyle medicine is a specialty that uses therapeutic lifestyle interventions as primary modality. So, so just emphasize on some wording here that I bolded and changed the color to people understand the differences and with lifestyle medicine versus traditional medicine that we're gonna also discuss a bit more. So it's the purpose is to treat chronic conditions such as, but not limited to, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. Lifestyle medicine certified clinicians are trained to apply evidence-based whole person perspective lifestyle change to treat, and when used intensively, often reverse such diseases conditions. So again, it's the same as we prescribe medications for treatment of diseases. We do prescription for physical activity, nutrition, and with the other pillars of lifestyle medicine. And what they are, it's whole food plant-based diet, physical activity, restorative sleep, stress management, social connection, and avoidance of risky substances. So the interesting thing about the six pillars are they are very interconnected to each other. Like our nutrition has impact in our sleep. Like the time that we eat matters in our sleep, and physical activity is important. Again, that helps with improving our sleep or improve our stress management. It helps with our mental and physical health. And social connection, the same. It impacts our health, that we are going to touch on those. And the same, avoidance of risky substances, how consumption of alcohol or tobacco that impacts our health. Again, kind of alcohol, some people think, oh, that helps with the sleep, but not maybe necessarily. And so those are very kind of looking at those pillars as looking as person as a whole, not just having one issue and then try to address that issue without considering other related problems. This is kind of looking at conventional medicine comparing with lifestyle medicine. If you think of the focus, again, kind of in conventional, we try to treat diseases after the disease started, but in lifestyle medicine, the emphasis is prevention and talking about reversal of diseases. And like when you go to those conferences, they talk about de-prescribing versus what we see in traditional or conventional medicine. Like you have diabetes, you take medication, you have blood pressure, all those things just adds on to baggage of comorbidities, and an approach, again, like in conventional is reactive. You try to treat with medication, and absolutely when it's needed, when people to present to emergency department, absolutely should be treated. This is urgent, but also there's a role of behavior change, education, and to try to be proactive and through lifestyle medicine. And again, with the goal in terms of managing and controlling disease, which again, when we do the same in lifestyle medicine, but we looked at those pillars of lifestyle medicine as primary step. And as we see in different guidelines we have for diabetes, heart disease, and stroke, all lifestyle medicine suggested at the beginning and then treatment as well. Patient role, again, in conventional, patient comes to your clinic and you advise them what to do, what medication to take. But in lifestyle medicine, you get people, um, empower them and work with them to make changes, behavior changes, and to get them to realize the importance of those things. But you kind of not try to just advise them. Interventions, again, with conventional medicine, we try to get the people's investigations, which again, that is necessary when it's needed, but it's not all about treat people the way that don't look at the other things, that why that is happening, like try to look at the root causes of diseases. And the team approach, like in conventional medicine, it's usually physician led, which is okay, but people get more benefit when you involve other healthcare providers in your team, and lifestyle medicine is quite a team-based approach. In terms of cost, conventional medicine, you do lots of investigation, lots of treatment, all those involved with high cost, versus in lifestyle medicine, when you try to prevent diseases, definitely that is cost saving, and research shows over and over again. And the role with planetary health, we will hear more from Dr. Swoboda in terms of how that impacts our lifestyle in our planetary health. Again, that just as I mentioned, there is a collaborative role of allied health. Like there is a pathway for other healthcare providers, dietitian, occupational therapist, physiotherapist, pharmacists, and people to get their certification in lifestyle medicine is not just for physician, and certainly the team and nursing as well. And that team approach that makes it so successful.
Okay, so why is lifestyle medicine so important? And this is because the top causes of death and disability, both globally and in Canada, are attributable to lifestyle-related disease. So 90% of deaths are due to non-communicable illnesses. And the top causes are cancers, cardiovascular, chronic respiratory diseases, diabetes, all of which are influenced by lifestyle. What we see here is the Canadian numbers as of 2019. Basically, you're seeing cancer as the top cause in Canada of death, then cardiovascular disease, then COVID-19. COVID-19 is now falling down that list as the population has become vaccinated, et cetera. So many of the top causes, the ones we indicate there with the red, are lifestyle related. And so essentially we're seeing an epidemic of lifestyle related chronic disease, primarily driven by diet and other lifestyle factors. And we know that 63%, like pretty much 2/3 of Canadians, are overweight or obese, a third of adolescents, and 50%, a full 50% of our calories are from ultra processed foods. And 20% of our deaths are due to dietary factors. We're spending way less in Canada than they do in the US, but it's still a significant portion of our GDP, 12.4%, goes to treating these chronic and potentially reversible diseases. So 7 out of 10 Canadians have at least one of the 10 common chronic diseases like hypertension, ischemic heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and we all know someone in our family that has one or multiple of these. And basically, Canadians are not engaging in the healthy lifestyle behaviors. Like 60% don't meet physical activity guidelines. I've read 80% in some references. 77% don't consume their veggies and fruit allotment for the day. And 46% have some trouble with sleeping, either falling asleep or maintaining sleep. So these are important lifestyle behaviors that we can all improve. And the current paradigm, as Sussan mentioned, is basically interventions. So we do procedures, we do medications to treat these chronic diseases. In the case of coronary disease, we might give you a stent or a bypass. For diabetes and hypertension and high cholesterol, we give you meds. For constipation and reflux, we might give you meds. But we're not really in these doctor's visits addressing the root cause of illness. And there's a reason for this. It's because the Western medical model and the teaching in medical school rarely addresses things like nutrition or other lifestyle factors. And that's what we're trying to change through our committee at Queen's. So I don't know if many of you read that book, Outlive, by Dr. Peter Attia. And we like all the sections in that book except the nutrition section. But he just had an interesting concept near the beginning of that book of medicine 3.0 versus medicine 2.0. So what we're practicing now is largely medicine 2.0, where we're doing sort of medications and interventions like surgeries near the end of your life. So the solid line there is the trajectory of our life without any intervention. So in North America, somewhere along age 50, you start to see a decline in your health. So we have health span on the y-axis, lifespan on the x-axis. You hit sort of middle age and you expect this downward decline in North America. In Japan, they sort of squared the curve. They expect to live to 90, to their late 90s, and then drop off of pneumonia or something in their late old or die of old age in their sleep. Whereas we expect to get this multitude of illnesses like osteoarthritis and metabolic disease. What medicine 3.0, which you might call lifestyle medicine, aims to do is to square the curve. So we maintain a good health span for the majority of our years, and then only in our later decades might see a steep decline and hopefully die in our sleep peacefully. Anyway, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to shift that curve, square that curve. All right, so this is Ornish loves to put up this slide, and it's basically in conventional medicine, we're just mopping up the mess, but we're not turning off the tap, which is what we need to do. We need to get to the root cause, and that's what the tap is. Okay, so Henry, over to you. Oh, Henry, you're muted, yeah.
I wanted to talk about planetary health and how do we develop a sustainable system that supports the health of individuals and the planet. When I think of sustainability, I think of some confluence of social factors, environmental factors, and economic factors. We can think about those factors in basically any system, be it our personal health or be it the healthcare system as a whole. So if we move on to the next slide, the things that I think are important for a sustainable system do include being carbon neutral, but that's just one out of, how many do I have here? 7 things that we need to tackle, right? Sustainability isn't just carbon. That's a huge thing that we need to tackle, and the clock is ticking. But we also are running out of all sorts of materials and metals and critical minerals and all these sorts of things that our system uses a lot of. So our system needs to be circular and using materials that can be reused, recycled, or renewable. It should be at a steady state, right? Not requiring constant growth or expansion in order to continue. It should be resilient, right? Climate change, we are in for some catastrophes, some increasing stress on our healthcare system, increasing stress on our health from climate change as it is. And so we need a system of caring for our own health and for the healthcare system in general that is resilient and adaptable to shocks and crises. Ideally, it would be local, so adapted to our specific needs, rooted in place, and decreasing our dependency on fragile global systems, and equitable, fair, intergenerational, considering is this something that's sustainable and that will honor our responsibility to the future. Next slide. So we talk about planetary health. What is it? To me, I think it's intuitive, right? It's the idea that you can't have a healthy person on an unhealthy planet. Starting early on in kind of Western philosophy, we start thinking that humans are separate from nature, that we're this separate thing. But I think we're coming back around to this understanding that we are one with and part of nature, and we cannot separate ourselves from it and expect to derive health benefits from it. But you can see on the picture on the left, that we have our individual health. And we start to expand that view and see that health is really a social enterprise, right? When we start talking about public health, we're talking about sanitation and clean air and clean water, and vaccination and these other aspects of promoting public health that really kind of depend on everyone else. And then we start to recognize that the health of our local areas are actually also dependent on the health of other people. And that health is dependent, so that's global health, and that health is dependent on One Health, right? The health of all living things on this planet, all animals in particular, affects our health, right? Animal agriculture is the cause of pandemics. Due to land use change, due to animals being held close in proximity to each other. And they're the cause of a significant number of the urinary tract infections comes from consuming chicken, as well as the antimicrobial, the antibiotic resistance that we see from those bugs, the E. coli that we get from those, and other infectious agents there. They use them as growth factors in these animals, and now we can't use them to treat diseases in humans. So because we're packing these animals together in an unhealthy way, it then trickles down and affects our health in multiple ways. And as I said, at the beginning, this planetary health to me seems very intuitive. Without clean air, a clean, functioning biosphere, a planetary health, a climate system that can support natural systems, we can't expect it to trickle down and affect us because, as we see on the right, we need flourishing planetary systems to support our flourishing places and communities, to support our flourishing individuals. If we move on to the next slide, we'll see a bit of a graphic that just shows kind of, the ways that these things can be interrelated, that are, the health of our biodiversity affects our food and agriculture system, and affects our mental health and well-being, and affects our physical and emotional health. So there's all back and forths between our personal health and this planetary health. Next slide. Where I think this kind of hits home the most are these health and climate and sustainable system kind of co-benefits, right? We can take care of ourselves and reach a sustainable or a more sustainable equilibrium in our own health by doing things like eating a healthy, whole food, primarily plant-based diet. It's good for the environment, decreases land use change, decreases water use, changes the amount of pesticides in the environment, makes us healthier, supports decreased methane and decreased greenhouse gases. It's healthier all around. Active transportation, the same thing. It leads to a healthier you and a healthier planet. Not using fossil gas, cooking in your home, leads to healthier lungs and less fossil fuel use and climate change. There's all these co-benefits. So it turns out, again, as I kind of spoke of when I introduced myself, there's this synergy between doing the right thing for your health, is the right thing for the healthcare system, is the right thing for planetary health. And so that's part of what lifestyle medicine does. It finds where the evidence is, and I think that that aligns very, very closely with planetary health. Next slide. And so I see kind of three main problems in healthcare. We can kind of zoom through these. There's fragility, there's the emissions in the system, there's the fragility in the system, and the decreasing carrying capacity. And I'll go through each. Next slide. So 5% of our emissions in Canada are from our healthcare sector. And you might think, well, animal agriculture is responsible for 25%, transportation a little bit less than that, like heating and cooling and stuff for a lot, electricity. 5% doesn't seem like that much, but we have to look at all of our systems and find ways to make them sustainable, and that means carbon neutral. So it means that we cannot provide healthcare in the way that we've been doing it in a sustainable way at this time without those emissions. And so we need to be finding a way to do that. And I think one way to do that is rechange our kind of focus in our healthcare system, again, from high intensity care to something that's also efficacious, but is more preventative. Next slide. And so our healthcare provision is fragile. Again, this is this idea of adaptation to climate change, right? As there start to be shocks to the system, our healthcare system can't be dependent on this global system of money, economics, trade, and energy. We need to start caring for our own healthcare as much as we can. Next slide. The decreased caring. Oh yeah, and so caring for our own healthcare. Again, there's another factor of sustainability is the fact that our raising costs are going up and up and up. We can't continue spending money like we are now. That's truly an unsustainable system. Next slide. And then so the decreased carrying capacity is just the idea that we are using too many of our resources. We're using more than our fair share. We are degrading our living planet right now. So we have to learn to do more with less. We don't have as much as generations prior because we've polluted our atmosphere. We've used our minerals. We've degraded the biosphere. It's no longer as healthy as it used to be. So we need to start learning to do more with less and soon. Next slide. And so, this kind of shows this is life expectancy versus the amount spent in a country. And you can see that the United States does the worst with or not the worst, but makes very little out of the most money. Whereas Canada is kind of the middle of the graph, meaning that we have better outcomes, but we also spend a lot more money than lots of places, than Spain, Portugal, or say Costa Rica or Cuba. They focus a lot on preventative and primary healthcare, on community health workers. We all need to learn to institute a system where we're responsible for our own health and where we're focusing on public health in a way that we can spend less money but still promote good health. That's the way of the future, and I think lifestyle medicine is the answer. Moving on.
Is this you or me, Sussan?
I believe it's nutrition, Maria. Avery is doing this, or you're doing it?
Oh, so no, I think I'm doing this. Yeah. So basically, lifestyle medicine is the solution. And like we said, we have the six big pillars that we're going to address each one in sequence here. So the first one we want to address is physical activity. So we know that there's several domains of exercise or types of exercise. The cardiovascular, just we call it cardio now. We used to call it aerobics when I was in the 80s. Strength, flexibility, balance, and this is just getting up and moving is enough. But we're going to talk about structured physical activity. Everybody says, oh, I'm gardening or I do a lot of housework, but we want to talk about when you make this structured. So what are the benefits of exercise? So basically, it is like an enormous effect on all body systems, right? Recently, I've been very interested in the correlation between exercise and decrease in dementia. Right. So when we do cardio, we produce something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. And when we do resistance, we produce myokines. And both of these promote neurogenesis, so building new brain cells in our hippocampus, and also increasing brain plasticity by increasing the synaptic connections, the connections between our brain cells. So we can literally, grow some new brain, not all parts of our brain, but we're growing new connections, which helps stave off dementia, but also improves our cognitive function in the moment. We know that people that will go out and just do a walk prior to taking an examination will perform better cognitively. So we also know that that exercise, helps us to maintain our muscle mass, our bone mass. Our muscle mass is so important for our metabolic health, and our, mitochondrial content and quality is impacted by exercising our muscles. Also, another area I've been very interested lately is like the relationship between exercise and cancer prevention or survival of cancer. When you exercise, the blood flowing through your vessels has shear force that can break metastatic cancer cells and prevent cancer from spreading. It also activates our natural killer cells, which help to prevent and help us to survive from cancer. So there's just these widespread metabolic, cardiovascular, brain, immune system effects that really help increase our quality of life and our longevity. And we know that it doesn't take much. Like the biggest improvement in mortality is going from being a couch potato, so doing like less than 2,000 steps, as shown in the bottom here, and doing like something like 6,000 steps. Look at the big difference in drop in mortality just between 2,000 and 6,000 steps. And then you get some additional benefit up to 10,000 steps a day. But, the biggest benefit is just, getting off your chair and moving. But we do have Canadian guidelines for this, and the guidelines are that we do moderate to vigorous aerobic physical activities, such as walking or cardio, 150 minutes per week. So that would be 30 minutes, 5 days per week. We also want to include some muscle strength training in there, at least twice a week, and do some activities that challenge our balance. And so you want to also include like just not being sedentary and getting up and doing several hours of light physical activity through the day and limiting your sedentary behavior time to less than 8 hours. The other important factor, of course, is sleep, which Sussan's going to talk about, but this helps you to recover from your exercise. So that's included in the physical activity guidelines. The thing is, the guidelines are the bare minimum. You will still get benefit if you do more. And so if for those that are, really into, man, I really, want to optimize my health. I want to have like the best, like, 80s or 90s if I can live that long. So I've been looking at the brain and cardiometabolic health studies. And when you look at these, like you can still get more benefit by exceeding the guidelines, like doing at least 3 hours per week of moderate cardio, meaning getting your heart rate 65 to 75% of maximum, so zone 2 training, doing at least one high intensity session, 20 minutes per week, like high intensity cardio, and 2 to 3 sessions per week of strength training, where, this really depends on your baseline. Like if you've never done any, just doing body weight training will help. But if you've already done some and want to, grow more, you're going to go harder into the weights. This is their whole science to this, and we're preparing talks for the medical students on exercises medicine because it's like a whole talk in itself. I will pass it over to Dr. Askari to talk about some of the other pillars.
Okay, so let's talk about social connection. We talked about, that's one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. And next slide, please. So social connection would impact our physical, emotional, and mental health. And it's kind of, if you think that is the impact that has in our kind of longevity and prevention of diseases, you see it's kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of things that people can do. It would not be cost effective, to have community of people and increase and grow your connection. Next slide, please. This is kind of stats from Canada for different provinces, the kind of prevalence of loneliness. As you see, this is quite significant if you think of, the percentages that you see. And unfortunately, you see this is in our younger population quite significantly. It's so sad that you see newer generation. It's even nowadays. I mean, as you see, like people even don't talk on the phone. They always try to text. Even they are sitting in the bus going to school from the front seat to the back seat. Like they kind of talk to each other through text messages. And next slide, please. This study is very interesting, showing the impact of loneliness or lack of social connection is as impactful in your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And which, as you know, this is kind of always well known that the impact of smoking in our health is not just related to lung cancer, but overall risk factor for cardiovascular disease and stroke, which again, kind of lack of social connection can have that significant impact. And next slide, please. Study by Holt Lundstedt did around like 300,000 people. They followed them up in 7.5 years to with regards to their relationship, and they found that those with a good relationship, they had 50% greater chance of survival compared to those with poor social connection. And next slide, please. This is kind of systematic review that was published. They did in UK that included many different studies, and they had like more than 4,000 of cardiovascular disease or more than 3,000 of stroke incidents, and they found that the relation between poor social connection and risk of a stroke and heart disease is around like 30%, which is very high. And the other impact is not just relates to the heart or stroke, but also impacts our cognitive function and physical decline, like impact of loneliness. That people with Alzheimer's disease, they now a study shows that they are the ones that are loneliness, they have higher chance of that. And stress and loneliness also impacts our immune system. And the way that they now that is linked is through inflammatory changes. It has the social connection has anti-inflammatory effect if you think this way, which again, it's amazing to think of how that could impact our health. Next slide. Uh, quickly talk about restorative sleep, which next slide, please. That is very important in terms of, again, health is not just some people think that we are wasting our time sleeping, but definitely now is more and more evidence showing that how it would impact our health. The guideline suggests 7 to 9 hours. Of course, that depends, like in younger or kids or newborn, like they're higher kind of they need more sleep. But this is kind of for adults, 7 to 9 hours. And if we sleep less than that time, that would impact our cognitive function, our attention center for attention in our brain. And it's kind of equivalent of having like alcohol in your system around like 0.04 and 0.05, like around at that level. And the importance of sleep brought to attention that now Stroke and Heart Foundation, like they announce sleep as essential 8 for risk factors for stroke. Next slide, please.
Wait a second.
So in terms of how we can improve our sleep, or the things that would impact that our sleep, is stress is very important because if you're anxious or you have stress, like that certainly impacts your sleep. Substances like caffeine, the half life for coffee is or caffeine is around like depends on people, but it's usually around like 6 7 hours or so. That's why it's always good to not to drink coffee. For people, for example, go to bed at 9 or 10, better not to have coffee after 2 p.m. The same relates to alcohol. Like people think that when they drink alcohol, that helps with their sleep. Sure, they get sleepy, but this is not a good sleep that actually got the quality of sleep for people who sleep with alcohol is not the same as having sleep naturally. And timing of the meals is important. Again, when we talked about how those pillars of lifestyle medicine are connected, like at least like more than 3 hours before sleep, you need to eat, and better not to eat after that. The same as exercise, you certainly should be physically active as much as you can, but not to be kind of doing exercise at 8 p.m. and go to bed like expect to have good sleep at 9 or 10. And medication side effects, again, some medication kind of cause arousal or being kind of quite aware or awake. And sleep environment is important. Make sure that cool that your bedroom. Use your bedroom only for sleep. If you cannot sleep more than like 20 minutes in the bed, try to kind of get out of the bed and use again bed for just sleep purposes. Not to have TV in room. Better not to have watch in the or clock in the in the bedroom and just use that to associate your sleep with not kind of something that frustrates you, that would impact you cognitively. And those are kind of two columns that see the impact of lack of sleep increases risk of hypertension, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, stroke, dementia, as we talked about, all those risk factors, again, lifestyle related. And our immune function, most importantly, they've shown that there's a link between with the three cancers, colorectal cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer. It impacts our response to vaccination. It reduces people who do not sleep well, that would weaken their response, and again, increases insulin resistance, and that put you at higher risk of metabolic syndrome, infertility for, again, kind of with abortion linked with lack of sleep, and the impact are inflammatory markers such as C-reactive protein or TFL. Those are some of the inflammatory markers that shown that impacts with lack of sleep. Those are just a couple of books. Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, Berkeley University psychologist. Lots of research in this area. And Say Goodnight to Insomnia, which with Dr. Jacobs talks about how some cognitive behavior changes can impact our sleep. And again, kind of those sleep medication, even if that need to be used, it's not going to be effective forever, maybe for a couple of weeks, and should not be used. And we need to learn how to have good quality sleep with not necessarily using medications. Hand it over to Avery.
Okay, so nutrition is the next pillar. Next slide, please. So, as mentioned before, the whole food plant-based diet is kind of the focus of the nutrition pillar within lifestyle medicine. So, a whole food plant-based diet, we can kind of break that down into the two components, so whole foods and then plant-based. So, whole foods is basically single ingredient foods that have been minimally processed or unprocessed, so kind of like as they exist in nature. And whole foods are not necessarily whole or unwhole. It's kind of on a spectrum. So we have like whole foods, and then we have minimally processed, and then we have more processed, and we have ultra processed. So it's kind of on a spectrum, and we want to be more on the whole food side as much as possible. And then plant-based. So these are foods that come from plants, and a plant-based diet is generally like higher percentage of plant food. So we might think of it as at least 95% of calories coming from plant foods. So this would be fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and nuts and seeds. And those are kind of the main 5 categories of plant-based foods. Next slide, please. So the Mediterranean diet is probably one of the most well-known plant-forward diets. And so it's well known for its health benefits, and is commonly used for preventing and managing of chronic diseases like heart disease, diabetes, liver disease, obesity, things like that. And it is also a lifestyle. So it's not just a diet. It's also got the exercise emphasis, the social emphasis. So it's kind of well integrated in that sense. And so because chronic diseases are one of the leading causes of illness and death and disease in North America, a lot of those chronic diseases can be prevented through lifestyle measures like nutrition. And we can see that diet is one of the biggest modifiable factors to help prevent and treat chronic diseases, to help prevent suffering and death. Yeah, next slide. So this was a large study that wanted to look at the importance of the Mediterranean diet, and specifically what parts of it were health promoting. So they did, of course, find that higher adherence to the Mediterranean eating pattern was associated with lower rates of all-cause mortality. And they further broke it down into the significance of each component. So it was found that some of the main components that made it more health promoting was the higher intake of vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes, and olive oil, as well as a lower intake of alcohol and meat, and a lower ratio of saturated fat and higher amount of unsaturated fat. So those components together are kind of what made the Mediterranean diet more healthful. And this was another study that found that higher adherence to plant-forward diets or pro-vegetarian diets were linked to up to a 40% lower risk of all-cause mortality. So that was kind of found to be similar things like higher intakes of fruits, vegetables, nuts, whole grains, olive oil, and lower intakes of animal foods like meats and foods like that. Next slide. So back to the Mediterranean diet, it's not the only plant-forward eating pattern. We see similar plant-forward eating patterns to address different conditions, and they all look quite similar. So we've got the DASH diet to help address hypertension. There's a few more here. The MIND diet to support brain health. I can't see that, it's too small for me. Portfolio. Thank you. Portfolio diet for lowering cholesterol. The kidney diet, so supporting kidney health. American Institute for Cancer Research, so preventing and reducing cancer risk, also plant forward. And heart health, more of the plant forward foods. And then one more. This one's more recent. So then I think it's pronounced Neeming diet. This one's for microbiome, gut microbiome health. So we can kind of see across all these patterns, they're kind of each to address different health realms, but they all have a similar type of like whole food focus, mostly plant focus. So we see this also in the Canada Food Guide. So it's also got a very similar approach. And this one's the newer one. So this one's a few years old. So it focuses on promoting mostly whole foods, half the plate veggies and fruits, about a quarter of the plate whole grains, and another quarter of the plate protein foods. And they do emphasize choosing protein foods that come from plants more often, limiting highly processed foods. Again, that's increasing the whole foods, drinking water most often. And then the dairy is optional. So that was a new change to the Canada Food Guide, is dairy is no longer a food group of itself. Next slide. Oh, back again. Thank you. And so the Canada Food Guide also has a few other eating habits and lifestyle patterns to support it. So that also kind of aligns with the lifestyle medicine structure. So being mindful of eating habits, cooking more often, eating with others is a really important one. Education with food labels. So there's a lot of integrated components of the food guide that are not just about what to eat. It's also about how to eat and how we're interacting with foods and living our lifestyle. And so one of the most common concerns that we get when looking at changing the eating pattern to more of a plant focus is there are potential nutrient deficiencies. So with any type of diet, it's possible to have nutrient deficiencies or inadequacies. And so what we can do, you can advance a little bit. One of the main things we can do is focusing on whole foods. So whole foods tend to be higher in vitamins, minerals, fiber, all those important nutrients. And the plant-based diets actually tend to be higher in certain nutrients as well. So we see higher fiber is a big one. So approximately 95% of Americans don't meet fiber recommendations, and we assume that's kind of similar in Canada. So that's a big one. Other nutrients like magnesium, vitamin C, antioxidants, phytonutrients, all those nutrients we might see more of on a plant-forward diet. So that being said, there are also some nutrients that we might be more conscious of, that we might be more likely to be lower in. So two of those key ones are vitamin D and vitamin B12. There's just one more pop-up. Vitamin D and B12, those are ones that we often recommend using supplements for. So vitamin B12 is not really found in any plant-based foods. It's mostly just found in meat. And then vitamin D, really it's recommended for almost every Canadian to be taking vitamin D supplements anyway, but that one also is at risk too. So those would be the two that we want to really pay attention to and most likely supplement with. And then I believe Henry's going to talk more about the environmental effects.
I'm
Yep,
just
because so this is an area, I talked about those kind of health and climate co-benefits, and I think this is an area where, all of the pillars of lifestyle medicine are important for your health. Diet is a very important one, but also it's one that's critical to preserving our ecosystem. So many of the planetary boundaries that we've crossed, from novel chemicals to climate change and methane production to biogeochemical flows, water use and land use change. Those are all these planetary boundaries that we've crossed, and they are intricately related to animal agriculture in particular. And we know that our food system as a whole is responsible for 25% of all greenhouse gas emissions. So if we get to zero emissions everywhere else, we still have too many emissions coming from our food system to have a sustainable biosphere with a sustainable climate. We'll still be making climate change worse if we get rid of every other emission except for what's going on in our food system. So we have to change it. And the major target is livestock production. 80% of that 25%, right? So 80% of food system emissions come from livestock production. Worst of them all is beef, red meat, lamb, those ruminants. They produce methane. They're also responsible for land use change, which sends more carbon into the atmosphere. So you might think that local grass-fed beef is okay, but it's changing our use of the land, and it's also releasing methane, and it still is very bad. And so we know that vegan diets, so those that have no animal products in them, are responsible for just a quarter of the greenhouse gas emissions of omnivorous diets, have a third less biodiversity impact, and less than half of the water use. And so this, if you're doing everything else in your life to not, try and make the world a better place, to try and not make climate change worse, to reduce your carbon impact, this is a place that should be up at the top of your list of things to do. Next slide. And we know this is recommended as a diet by, there's a large commission called the Eat Lancet Commission that looked at what does a diet look like that is sustainable for the planet and healthy for people. And you can see these diets all look the same. Half the plate is fruit and vegetables, around a quarter of it is whole grains, and around a quarter of it is protein foods, with the majority of those protein foods being plant-based proteins. Next slide. They kind of spell it out for you, saying that you can have you can have one serving of low-fat dairy per day, one small serving, about 100 grams of meat per day, and that serving can be red meat, so beef, lamb, or pork once a week due to the climate as well as health impacts of those things negatively. But it can be fish and poultry. So you can have these small servings of meat, kind of this Mediterranean meat as a garnish, not the center of your plate, if you choose. But it's not required, in order to, and you can still live a sustainable diet. But as we'll see, next slide, we're far away from that goal, right? In Canada, you see we're eating too much dairy, too much red meat, too much chicken, eggs, and fish compared to the Eat Lancet diet. We're eating more than our fair share in order to have a healthy and sustainable planet, and more than other countries are eating and able to sustain their populations. Next slide. And as we see here, everyone in orange is eating in a way that would not be possible if everyone on the planet ate this way. So in Canada, if everyone ate like a Canadian, there would not be enough land on this planet to raise our food. So again, we're eating more than our fair share here, and there needs to be a change so that we can have a sustainable planet.
Okay, thank you, Henry. And Jude, I realize we're going a little later than we had said. If you give us another 10 minutes, I think we can wrap up, and then we could spend 20 to 30 minutes on questions. Is that okay?
Yes, that sounds great.
Okay, thank you. So where are they getting it right in the world? So we know from the Blue Zones, and if you've seen that Netflix documentary called Living to Be 100 or Live to Be 100, and I think there are several Blue Zones books now, you'll know that there are 5 zones in the world where people tend to live the longest and with the greatest health. And these are Okinawa, Japan, Ikaria in Greece, Sardinia in Italy, Nicoya in Costa Rica, and Loma Linda in California. And here we learn some lessons and some commonalities modalities. So basically, we see that these peoples are eating a predominantly plant-based diet. They're not smoking. They have family connections and friend connections. They have constant, moderate physical activity built in as part of their day. They're not, going out and getting gym memberships. In these zones, the healthy choice is the default choice. So health is built into their societies, and that's something that we have to try and emulate. So social engagement is big, legumes are big, and so there's a lot of overlap between these zones. When you look at Okinawans particularly, to see what did they eat to be so long-lived and so healthy, and this is the earlier Okinawans. Right now, Okinawa, unfortunately, is being overcome by fast food like everywhere else, and they're seeing the rise in Western disease. But when Okinawans were, one of these blue zones, they were eating a largely predominantly, so greater than 96% plant-based, where 70% of their calories came from one species of purple sweet potato, because they were a poor agrarian population and had to rely on what they sort of can grow. Also eating rice, grains, soy and legumes, fruits, and very small, like less than 4% animal products. Is it possible to emulate this in North America and to do this as part of medicine? So here we have Dean Ornish, widely regarded as the father of lifestyle medicine. He got into this like 30, 40 years ago, longer now, when he was a medical student. We don't want to age poor Dean here. But essentially, he's been doing this for ages and has addressed numerous systems. So basically, his motto is eat well, move more, stress less, and love more. So basically, he narrowed it down to about 4 pillars, but he would include something like, sleep under, stress less. So he, addressed both the, heart disease. He has addressed prostate cancer. He's addressed dementia. But he started out with heart disease, actually studying this as early as a medical student, publishing a series of trials. But the most famous trial that he did was the Lifestyle Heart Trial, randomized controlled clinical trial, 48 patients with moderate to severe coronary disease, randomized them to the usual care, so medications, versus intensive lifestyle intervention, so nutrition, exercise, stress management. And a lot of this was done before statins even. So the dietary intervention was low fat, whole food, plant-based. And what did they see? So basically, they followed these patients initially just for 1 year and then for 5 years in a second published paper. And they saw that the intervention group, the group getting the lifestyle change, had regression of coronary stenosis, both on angiogram, but also in like clinical findings, having less heart attacks and chest pain. Basically, we never sort of see this. Like, we don't talk about regression of coronary artery disease in Western medicine. We try and manage symptoms and prevent progression, but actual regression is just not something we would think about before. So the control group had the expected progression of coronary stenosis, even in that short time period of 1 to 5 years. End of interest, the regression occurred in a dose-responsive manner, with those that did the most lifestyle change having the best regression. And, unbeknownst to Ornish, Esselstyn, so Ornish was doing this on the West Coast. This is in the 80s, and Esselstyn was doing this on the East Coast. And here's just one of his colleagues who actually came to him after having an MI and having an angiogram. And on the left, you can see he has this rat-bitten LAD. In fact, it was stenosed even distally, so it couldn't be bypassed, couldn't be stented. He sort of was sent home to just like manage this on his own. He approached Esselstyn, and Esselstyn put him on a whole foods plant-based diet. So just the dietary component, not even the other pillars. And 3 years later, look at on the right, you have this garden hose of an LAD. This is one of the big arteries at the front of the heart that supply the left ventricle. So really, a picture's worth 1,000 words here. And his stenosis had cleared, and this person was very emotional with Esselstyn, basically saved his life. So Ornish, having done it with heart disease, repeated it in prostate cancer in huge, hugely impactful journals. These are very high quality journals, several studies on prostate cancer and lifestyle. The main findings were with 93 patients that were followed at 1 and 2 years after a prostate cancer diagnosis. And in the intervention group, which was the lifestyle, PSA, prostate-specific antigen, something, a marker of prostate cancer, went up in the control group, but down in the interventional group. And they were 5 times less likely to require treatment if they were in the intervention group. And if they took blood from a lifestyle patient and put it on a petri dish with cancer cells, those cancer cells had 8 times more growth. They had less growth with the serum of people that had had the lifestyle change. So this was all correlated with adherence once again. Then Ornish, during the pandemic, started to address this in dementia patients and found that he could do the program virtually. He didn't have to do it in person. People joined from all over the country virtually in the States, and basically saw a significant improvement in Alzheimer's dementia. So this is, again, not seen. People with minimal cognitive decline left without any lifestyle intervention will typically progress rapidly to Alzheimer's, and usually within 3 years of an Alzheimer's diagnosis are in very bad shape or have passed away. Well, he found 42% improved. These are people with minimum cognitive decline versus none in the control group. And those that had the intervention had 2.2 times as likely to improve or stay the same, and very few were likely to worsen. And again, this was correlated to adherence. So how can we use this lifestyle to tackle one of our biggest epidemics, which is obesity? And we know obesity is primarily driven by dietary factors. So let's talk about just plant-based diets and how does this affect our weight loss. So one of the main principles for plant-based diets is that they're less calorie dense, but more nutritious. So you have calories per pound are fewer, but more nutrition packed into that sort of bulk. So plant foods are rich with fiber and water, but also micronutrients. So they take up a lot of space in your stomach and activate stretch receptors and make you feel full, at the same time giving you good nutrition. Whereas something like meat or oil take up very little space in your stomach, you quickly digest them and you feel hungry again. So basically, that's one of the principles of why this might work for weight loss. That should have been the previous slide. That's Ornish's book, Undo It. Anyway, so looking at different dietary patterns, this is in the Seventh-day Adventist studies. We look at non-vegetarians, semi-vegetarians, pesco-vegetarians, lacto-ovo-vegetarians, and vegans. And we see that, thousands of people studied that really it was only the vegans that had a normal BMI. The more you got plant-based, the more you had improvement in diabetes and in hypertension. So plant-based diets not only improve weight, but also these cardiometabolic diseases. And when we look at weight in particular, I really love this broad trial from 2017, published in Nature, a very high quality journal. And basically it was a randomized control trial using whole food plant-based diet for obesity. Basically followed for 12 months, 65 adults. There was no weight change in the control group and 11.5 pounds at 12 months in the whole food plant-based group. May not sound like a huge amount, but BMI decreased 4.2 points, and this was the largest weight loss in published literature for any randomized controlled trial that didn't limit energy intake. So they weren't limiting energy intake. They were just saying you're going to eat whole plant foods, and they didn't mandate exercise. It was just a dietary intervention, and saw this weight change. Then we have, what about how does this compare to other dietary patterns? We keep hearing so much about keto. And this is where the metabolic ward studies are very useful. These are the gold standard. That's where we take people, we kind of lock them in a metabolic ward, and we feed them, one pattern or another of diet and see what happens to their cardiometabolic markers, to their weight. So this was a publicly funded study by the NIH, which has now been dismantled by Trump. And Kevin Hall did this study. He's a preeminent researcher at the NIH. Again, not let go, but had to leave because of the recent changes at the NIH. This was a crossover study, took overweight men, exposed them or had them have an animal-based low-carb diet, so a keto animal-based type diet, then cross over to whole food plant-based, and the other way around for 14 days. So what were the results? So basically, whole food plant-based eaters ate 689 fewer calories per day. So they were given ad libitum diet, meaning you could eat all you want. They could stop when they felt full. And just naturally, whole food plant-based eaters eat like almost 700 fewer calories per day, even though they ate more food by weight. So this is the principle of calorie density. And the whole food plant-based group consumed much more fiber, so 60 grams versus 20 grams in the keto group. There was no significant difference in weight loss, 1 to 2 kilograms in each group. It was only a 2-week study, not surprising. But the whole food plant-based group had greater fat loss and lost fat at a faster rate. So that was very interesting. The keto group actually lost more lean mass, which you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose muscle. So the keto group failed also the oral glucose tolerance test, which is a test that measures insulin resistance. So they were more likely to be headed towards diabetes at the end of 2 weeks of eating animal-based keto. And the whole food group had lower LDL, which is the so-called bad cholesterol, or one of the atherogenic or cardiovascular disease causing cholesterols, and lower marker of inflammation, CRP. So overall, whole food plant-based was the big winner over keto here. What can plant-based do for us for diabetes? We had a hint there from Kevin Hall studies, but when we take patients with diabetes and replace 35% of their protein with plant-based, we significantly lower hemoglobin A1C, which is one of the markers of your glucose control, decrease fasting glucose, and we decrease fasting insulin, all of which are like important markers of our glycemic or blood sugar control. We have this other randomized controlled crossover trial, 31 overweight people with type 2 diabetes getting 6 servings of red meat replaced with legumes each week for 8 weeks. And the legume-based diet, significantly greater decreases in fasting blood glucose, fasting insulin, triglycerides, and LDL. So do we have programs in Canada similar to Ornish's? Like, what are we doing here? We have several lifestyle groups. One I will feature here is one that I do work with called Lifestyle RX. This is a 12-week program. It's online. These are virtual group sessions. It's physician-led. We have registered dietitian involvement, 100% covered by provincial health plans in BC, Alberta, and Ontario, and looking at reversing diabetes, but also all metabolic health. So if you have hypertension, high cholesterol, are overweight, even people with, minimal cognitive decline, anything that can be impacted by lifestyle is being considered. And soon we're going to start a menopause program as well. So you can sign up by going to Lifestyle RX and just pressing the Join Now button and following the prompts. But what kind of results are we seeing? I'll just feature diabetes, which is Lifestyle RX's forte, and basically really huge improvements. So A1C is a marker of glucose control, like I said, and totally normal A1C is in the 4.8 to 5.5 range. And we see people coming to us with very poorly controlled diabetes, like A1C of 9.4, and in just 12 weeks of the program get down to 7.7. Or if they had, reasonable control of their diabetes, like at 6.7 A1C, they'll still get lower in just 12 weeks. And we continue following them for as long as it takes. But essentially, we're seeing changes in A1C that are equivalent to medications or better. So we're getting people off meds and actually in remission or good control of previously poorly controlled diabetes. So take-home messages, 80% of our chronic diseases are lifestyle related. Our lifestyle interventions are super effective in prevention, progression, and often reversal of chronic disease. Lifestyle medicine empowers patients to take charge of their own health, and whole food predominant dietary patterns benefit both humans and the planet. So we are ready and prepared for your questions. Jude, maybe you can moderate this section. I'm sure there's some questions in the chat, but if people want to put up their hands and ask questions live, we're happy to sit here as long as it takes and you have questions.
Thank you very much. That was a wealth of information. Okay, I'll start with the chat. So Mary Jane asks, how can you access the Lifestyle Medicine Clinic? Do you ask for a referral from your doctor? And are family physicians aware of the LMC?
So yes, for anything that's OHIP covered, you need a referral from your family physician. If you're going to be seeing specialists in lifestyle medicine, you need to be referred from your family doc in order for that to be covered by OHIP. So for example, if you go on the Lifestyle RX website and you press join now, it takes you through prompts. It asks who's your family doctor, and then they fax a referral form to your family doctor stating that you want lifestyle intervention. Make it super easy for the patient. You don't even have to go to your family doctor. The form gets faxed to them. Other groups, there's another group called Aroga, for example. They have, their referral forms on their website. And you just, print off the form, take it in during your family doctor visit, say, hey, doc, I want lifestyle intervention for my disease. Help me maybe get off medications. And most family doctors are very super happy to sign such a form and fax it back because, everybody wants their patients to be doing lifestyle, but basically don't have time. And don't necessarily, like family docs are not getting remunerated to do lifestyle medicine and counseling. There are no preventative medicine codes in the OHIP fee schedule. As specialists, we can bill our specialty billing codes. Like if I'm seeing you for diabetes, I can bill for diabetes. But the system is not set up well for basically remunerating doctors to do lifestyle. And that's why, doctors just don't have first the education and the time to do it. So it's best to get referred to the groups that do this for a living. And the two I mentioned are probably the two biggest groups in Canada. Okay, we can, I can link the links in the chat for Aroga and Lifestyle RX. Is there other questions?
The next question in the chat was, will you be sharing your slides?
Yes. So basically, we will share our slides with Jude, and she can forward them to the whole group.
Okay, great. I don't see any hands raised, but I have a question. What is deprescribing?
Oh, okay. I don't know. Henry, do you want to handle that? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I needed you to help me unmute. The idea of deprescribing occurs both when someone has, reversed a medical condition for which they previously needed medication. So, in my case, I was on antihypertensives. I was on metoprolol for my blood pressure since the age of 20. And I got off at around the age of 40 when I started making lifestyle changes and eating differently, exercising, all those things. And so I deprescribed myself my metoprolol. I said I don't need it anymore, and I checked my blood pressure; it's still fine. And so you find a way to get off those medications that you no longer need when you've made lifestyle changes. And there's also other factors where we deprescribe medications. It's kind of this medical model that we have and this unsustainable technology, high carbon medical system that we have. Every problem needs a pill, and you get started on it, and then you just kind of continue it forever, whether it helped at all in the first place. Maybe it's helping now, maybe it's not. Maybe now it's causing more side effects than are good. And so kind of it can involve a reevaluation of medications, why they were started, and deciding whether medications are beneficial anymore, and choosing which medications can safely be stopped, and that in and of itself can be good for your health and can be good for the environment as well.
Okay, I'll just see if there's any other questions in the chat. Okay, Jerry's asking for a list of lifestyle medicine clinics, and we're going to get that. Oh, okay, there's lifestyle X's in there.
Yeah, I put some. I mean, there are more, but I put the two biggest ones in Canada in the chat.
Okay, and then Jerry's asking, wondering if you could recommend a couple of dinners that would accommodate a plant-based diet and a meat eater.
I think Avery might want to take that.
Sure. I guess this kind of depends if you want to still have meat in the meal or not. So some that would be like fully plant-based, like a chili is probably a popular one. So that's already got lots of beans, and you kind of just either remove the meat or replace it with a different like substitute. So that would be one that'd be like plant-based that also people who eat meat would be happy to eat. You can also do kind of build your own type of meals, like build your own tacos or loaded potatoes or wraps or bowls, things like that, where you can kind of have different components. So like if you're eating like more than one person or with a family, you can make the different components of the meal. So let's say it's like a grain bowl or something. You can make like some quinoa and some black beans and maybe some tofu, and then maybe you have some meat on there too, like some chicken or whatever. And whoever wants to eat plant-based can choose the plant foods and put that in their bowl. And people who want to eat the meat can include that as well. So those can work well for, people who don't want to eat the exact same meal. And then there are lots of other types of meals that again are fully plant-based that meat eaters will enjoy as well. So I hope that answers your question enough.
I will share. I love the concept of a Buddha bowl. So basically, a grain, a green, some beans, some veggies, some nuts and seeds, and making it sort of as nutrient dense as possible. So I don't know if you have some favorite sort of Buddha bowl recipes, Avery, but
yeah, I can share either a list or a link here in the chat. I just have to find my document.
And I'll parlay off that question and talk about the meat substitutes out there, right? The question in nutrition always comes down to when you ask, is it healthy? Is Beyond Burger or Impossible Meat or whatever, is it healthy? And the answer is always compared to what, right? And the best data we have is that I know Chris Gardner did a study. He's the guy who did the twin study that you saw on Netflix. He also did a study that they compared those kind of artificial meats, Beyond Burger, to like the best grass-fed kind of organic meats, and they randomized people to either, and they still saw health benefits from the meat substitute. So it's not as good as what is the best thing for your lifestyle, medicine approach is this kind of more whole food. They are ultra processed food, and high in salt and relatively high in fat, but still better for you than meats. And so, when I'm making meals for people I know it's going to be a mixed crowd, sometimes I'll make kebabs or meatballs or again chili. These kind of highly flavored foods. People won't even notice that there's meat substitute in there. And so that's something I think that can satisfy everybody.
Okay, and I believe Forks Over Knives has a beginner guide to plant-based eating that people can find online if they Google that. So, any other questions?
Okay, so Sussan put a good recipe website, so that's great.
Or for free, just want to add that if people don't want to spend money, so those resources are available for free. So, and then nutritionfact.org, that question by Martha, it's really good kind of resource, very evidence-based, comes out twice a week, like the video, short clips of video, like 5 minutes or so. And it's really good resource along with PCRM.org, it stands for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Very good podcast. And there are some recipes there for free, even classes sometimes going on in that website, and lots of good news and very evidence-based.
And so, yeah, Gregor is like a hero of mine, and I think of all the other plant-based physicians. First became aware of him in 2011. First met him in 2014. Thought I was going to pass out when I met him in the parking lot at the plant-based nutrition conference in oh my gosh, it was in California, in San Diego. And we were both stuck in the parking lot because the arm wouldn't go up. So we had like a good half-hour chat, and he is doing this work and often a target of criticism, which is very ill-deserved. He does delve into the primary literature to get to the core of the matter, and I think he's a very credible resource. And it's a searchable website. So if you have like cancer or you're wanting to prevent cancer, you'll just like put in cancer as a keyword and you'll find all the videos he's done. It's just 4-minute videos on all these topics. So it's a if you haven't been there, go to nutritionfacts.org. And he also does the what's that called? The daily dozen. So a dozen things that you should be eating in a day to hit all your whole food plant-based goals. So you can download that app onto your phone called the Daily Dozen, totally free. And it's sort of a gamify eating whole food plant-based.
Okay, here's a question from Tara. Do you find that people can sustain lifestyle changes and plant-based diets in the long term?
Oh, I've been working with patients for some of them for, up to 10 years. And yes, it is sustainable. So in the Ornish trials, he found that about 90% of people could adhere to a plant-based diet for at least the length of the trial. But I find that as people begin to feel better, they really want to adhere. Also, your reward center of your brain rewires. So the more plants you eat, the more plants you seek. And this is a bit to do with the reward center of our brain and also to do with our microbiome. So our microbiome in our gut gets used to what we're eating. Also, the neural circuitry in our brain gets used to what we're eating, and we end up seeking what we eat. So if we eat every day, like a lot of legumes, dark leafy greens, we call it develop a palate or a taste for it, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is the reward center of our brain is getting rewired so that we find these foods, really palatable. And we no longer seek the hyper palatable foods of the Western diet. It takes about 3 months for the rewiring of the brain to occur, for the neural circuitry to give you reward for normal palatable food. And to let go of this sort of addiction to hyperpalatable foods. And that is something that Dr. Doug Lisle, PhD in psychology, talks about. So if you want to read about food addiction and how long it takes to sort of accommodate to a plant-based diet and the psychology of all that, you want to read, oh my gosh, Doug Lisle's book called, somebody help me out here, Henry.
The Pleasure Trap?
The Pleasure Trap. Thank you. The Pleasure Trap. He has a TED Talk by that name and also a book. And the TED Talk is only 10 or 20 minutes. I highly recommend everyone watch The Pleasure Trap.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to back up what Maria said is that, again, as an addiction physician, I've kind of looked into it, and like the same stuff, the same areas that we see lighting up in people who use cocaine's brains light up when people are eating these ultra processed hyper palatable foods. It is a dopamine surge and your brain becomes dependent on them. And as you find a new way of eating, again, and I'll tell you from personal experience, you feel better, and it's not a slog where you're like, oh God, now I gotta eat my greens and I'm choking them down, or it's anything like that. Like, you eat healthy, you feel better, you don't crave the foods in the same way. It can certainly be hard getting started. I don't want to downplay that. But things change over time. So if you stick with it, the more you stick with it, the easier it is to stick with it.
I don't see any other questions, but I have one more question while we're waiting for anyone else to think of their questions. And I think two of you were talking about the cancer cells being sheared off by the blood, and like, how does that work if you change your blood?
Yeah, so what we were talking about there was exercise. So when you exercise, your heart pumps, your stroke volume gets more effective, and you're pumping blood more effectively. And as you do high intensity workout or even get your heart rate up to like moderate intensity, the fact that your blood is circulating faster through your bloodstream actually physically breaks cancer cells. So that's one mechanism. But also when you exercise, your immune system activates something called natural killer cells, which are cells that seek out cancer cells and like eat them up. So basically, we're activating our immune system when we exercise. We're also activating our immune system with a whole food plant-based diet. That's a whole separate thing. So when you eat whole food plant-based, you are feeding your gut microbiome because the fiber is the substrate for the good bacteria in your gut. The fiber is fermented into short chain fatty acids, and those short chain fatty acids communicate with your immune system to turn it on, make it more active, and to fight things like cancer and inflammation. That's just a few of the mechanisms by which lifestyle are fighting one of our biggest killers, which is malignancy. So.
And I'll add that there's a recent study that was in part done here at Queen's that showed that people who are undergoing treatment for colorectal cancer, by adding exercise in at about those recommended amounts, 30 minutes 5 times a week, improved their survival, decreased their recurrence, decreased occurrence of new cancers in line with about the same amount as chemotherapeutic drugs. So don't forgo chemotherapy if your oncologist recommends it, but also having a program of exercise added in can be just as effective. And what it was, and I want to emphasize because I was talking about the systems part of it, is they had a program of exercise. They didn't say just exercise 30 minutes 5 times a week. Yay, I did my job. They had exercise therapists help these people figure out a program of exercise. It cost like $3,000 or $4,000 over the course of a couple of years per patient, as compared to the cost of chemotherapy, which is in the tens of thousands, $30,000, an order of magnitude more money. And we're seeing the same benefits, and yet our system is not investing in that high value care of helping people exercise, helping people access healthy foods. We need a public system of healthy food prescriptions or public food provisions, that sort of things of being able to help people do exercise and access these lifestyle medicine things. Those are the sorts of things that can be extraordinarily efficacious if only we would actually invest in a program and not just say, okay, that's someone's personal choice.
Wow,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, a huge proportion of cancers worldwide are related to lifestyle and preventable and more survivable with lifestyle. And the results are additive. Like if you can exercise, but if you do diet plus exercise, you're getting an additive preventative benefit and additive survival benefit if you're doing it after treatment for a cancer.
Any more questions?
I did want to point out that this is good not only for adults, but also for children. and that one of the best books to read there is Nourish by Brenda Davis, and I can't remember her colleague that also wrote it with her, but has, for pregnancy, has for, like early stages of childhood, later childhood, and provides some hints of how to get your kids to eat this way and how to make it balanced and having all the right nutrients for a developing fetus or for a developing child.
We will make sure that we include all the links in the chat with our link to the video for this and our link to the slides for this. So we'll save that information too. Well, thank you very much for the wealth of information. This is really amazing. And thank you, everybody who submitted questions and everybody who participated. I want to paraphrase a quote from Avery, do nutrition well and you live well, from cell to soul. So thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Fun.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.